wonderful people, from World War II, Korea, up to Iraq and Afghanistan. And it really struck me as so sad that people who have put their lives on the line to defend democracy, people who never came home defending democracy, where we are today in terms of our democracy. And the answer is that right now, as a result of Citizens United, you have a system which is corrupt and billionaires able to buy elections. So this is what I think we've got to do. I promise you that any nominee of mine to the U.S. Supreme Court will not get that position unless he or she is clear and public about telling us they will vote to overturn Citizens United. And when we talk about the major issues facing this country, we also have to understand that we need to have the best educated workforce in the world. And that is why I believe in two things. Number one, public colleges and universities in America should be tuition free. And number two, that we should substantially lower interest rates on student debt. You know, we want our people to get the best education possible. We do not want them to be saddled and handicapped with huge debt for decades. It makes no sense at all. Now, right now, you have people who have student debt who are paying 6, 8, 10% interest rates on their student debt. And yet you can refinance your home for 3 or 4%. So I believe that we should give people who have high interest rates on student debt the opportunity to get the lowest interest rates they can. That will save people huge amounts of money. And we're going to pay for that. How are we going to pay for that? That's an expensive proposition. We're going to pay for that through a tax on Wall Street speculation. When Wall Street crashed, they went to the middle class of this country and they said, please, please bail us out. We are in trouble. Oh, we'll be so good. Just help us. And Congress, against my vote, did that, as a matter of fact. Now the middle class is hurting. It's time for Wall Street to help the middle class. Last major point that I want to touch on is, again, of enormous consequence. And as a member of both the Senate Environmental Committee and the Energy Committee, I will tell you that within the scientific community, there is no longer any debate. Climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, and it is already causing devastating problems in this country and around the world. And I worry very much about the young people who I see here, and about their kids and their grandchildren. Because if we do not get our act together in a very short window of opportunity, the planet that we're going to be leaving to our kids and our grandchildren will be significantly less healthy and habitable than the one that we have today. So in my view, we have got to have the courage to take on the fossil fuel industry, the oil companies, the coal companies, the gas companies. We have to take them on. We have to take on the politicians who are dependent upon the fossil fuel industry's campaign funds, and we have got to lead the world, working with China, Russia, India, other countries, away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And we can do that. We have the technology, and we have the knowledge. What we lack is the political will. All right, let me, for a moment, move toward politics. Some of you may know, I hope you all know, that you're having a Democratic caucus here on February 1st. Some of you will know. And I am hoping that all of you will go out to that caucus, because the Iowa caucus actually is a really interesting and almost unique opportunity for people to engage in the political process. You know, in most states, my state, you cast the vote, and obviously that's enormously important. But you do more here. You come to caucus, you see who's getting more votes, you're listening to other people's point of view. Many of you have gone to other candidates' presentations, hear what he or she has to say, and that's great. I mean, that's really what democracy is about. I am here to tell you a couple of things in terms of that. There are some people who suggest that, well, Bernie Sanders might be a nice guy or not a nice guy. May comb his hair just ever so nicely or not so nicely. But you know what? He can't win. He can't win. That's all. So don't bother voting for Bernie, because he can't win. Let me respectfully disagree with that assertion. Okay, let me tell you why. About 8.5 months ago, we began our campaign. And when I began this campaign, we had zero money. We had no political organization. And maybe most significantly, we had very little name recognition. I think it's probably fair to say that 8.5 months ago, maybe 75, 80% of the people in Iowa didn't even know who I was, let alone what I stood for. We have come a long way in 8.5 months. And if you look at the polling around the country and the polling here in Iowa and New Hampshire, we have got a real shot, I believe, to win here in Iowa with your support. We have an excellent chance to win in New Hampshire and in Nevada. And we're doing better in South Carolina. And if we win or do well in those states, we have an absolutely clear path toward victory and to pulling off one of the biggest political upsets in the history of the United States of America. And the reason that we are doing as well as we are is that people understand that given the severity of the problems that we face, and I've just ticked off some of them, given the severity of the problems we face in terms of income and wealth inequality, a corrupt campaign finance system, climate change, the need to make college available to all of our people regardless of income, those type of issues, that we need leadership in this country today prepared to take on the big money interests, and that the status quo and same old is not going to work. Let me give you an example of something that's happened that I never in a million years would have dreamed could have been possible when we began this campaign. When I began the campaign, people said, well, you know, Senator, this is the year 2015, 2016, and here's the real world of politics. To run a national campaign, you're going to need tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And the only way in this day and age you can raise that money is by having a super PAC. A super PAC. And what a super PAC is about, as you know, is an instrument by which millionaires and billionaires funnel huge amounts of money. And that's what they said. The only way you can win is to have a super PAC. Well, we don't represent the billionaire class, and I don't represent corporate America. And we said, thank you, but no thank you. We're not going to have a super PAC. And I am the only Democratic candidate who does not have a super PAC, who has not gotten money from Wall Street or the pharmaceutical industry or the fossil fuel industry, all those guys. Okay. But nonetheless, you've got to raise money. How are you going to do that? Well, what we did is something, I guess, very old-fashioned, very conservative. We reached out to people all over this country and we said, look, we need real change in this country. We need your help. And here's what's happened in the last 8.5 months, which is totally, to me, unbelievable. In the last 8.5 months, we have received 2.5 million individual contributions. That is more individual contributions than any candidate in the history of the United States of America. And here is what I find really moving. See, I don't go to these wealthy homes and walk away with millions of dollars. Our average campaign contribution is somewhere around $27. So what we are doing is not only talking about making a political revolution, talking about engaging people in the political process in a way we have not seen for a very, very long time. We are doing it. We are doing it. And we are showing that you can run a serious and, I believe, winning campaign with the support of working families in the middle class and not being dependent on the wealthy and the powerful. And here's the second reason why I believe I will be the strongest Democratic candidate to take on the right-wing extremism of the Republican Party. It's not just that, again, many polls out there, including a recent poll, which has me 13 points against Donald Trump. But I think that the key to politics today is the following. If turnout is high, Democrats and progressives win. If turnout is low, as it was last midterm election, Republicans win. And I think that the evidence is pretty clear and overwhelming that it is our campaign that is striking a nerve with working people and with young people all over this country. I believe that it is our campaign that will create a very significant increase in voter turnout. And when we have a huge increase in voter turnout, not only do we retain the White House, we're going to get back the Senate, we're going to do well in the House, win governor's chairs all over America. So here in Iowa, as all of you know, and I know that the people of Iowa take this responsibility very seriously, you are the first state in the country to vote on who the Democratic and Republican candidates for president will be. So I am here today to urge you to please come to the Democratic caucus. Please support my candidacy, because what my candidacy is about is not just voting for Bernie Sanders. You are voting for a political revolution which involves millions of people who have given up on the political process, getting back in it, reclaiming our democracy, and working together not only to elect a president, but much more importantly, to transform our country. Thank you all very much. Knows The only way that change, real change, has ever taken place is from the bottom on up. You know what I mean by that? It's not when some president signs a bill, it's when millions of people demand that change. That is true of the civil rights movement. It is true of the women's movement. It is true of the environmental movement. It is true of the gay rights movement. It is true of every movement which has changed America. Millions of people come together. And that is precisely what we have to do right now. So this is what I answer you. This is how I answer you. If millions of young people, as one example, tell Congress in no uncertain terms that they are watching what's going on, they know what's going on, and they want Congress to support legislation which significantly lowers student debt and which makes public colleges and universities tuition-free, you know what happens? That will occur because Congress will know that if they don't do the right thing, they're going to be on the unemployment lines. All right? So that is how you bring about real change. But if people are not involved, in the last election, 80% of young people didn't vote. Why would any person in Congress worry about the needs of young people? That's what we've got to change. Okay, Phil, where's the mic? Where's the microphone? Okay, get that young lady right there. Yeah.
Okay, so you described many of the forces.
Hold that mic closer to your mouth, please.
You described many of the forces that really work against honest politicians and that may prevent you from actually making change. And I want to know, first of all, how do you keep the passion to fight? And secondly, if you become president, how are you going to break through these vicious cycles to actually make a change?
Okay. How do I keep the passion? You know, I came from a family that did not have a lot of money, and I saw what it did to my family. I was the chairman of a subcommittee on a healthcare committee, and I listened to doctors, physicians talk about the physiology of poverty and what happens to people who are poor. Do you don't understand what I mean by the physiology of poverty? What I mean by that is not just that poor people and working class people don't have access to health care in the way that upper income people do, is if you are living under stress every single day, if you are worried about how you're going to feed your kids, if you are worried about whether you're going to lose your job tomorrow, your body responds to that. And the result is, in many cases, you die younger, you come down with more illness. All right? So I believe that we have, and what this campaign is about, and on top of that, I got 7 beautiful grandchildren. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that the planet and the nation I leave to those kids is a beautiful country. Everything that I've described to you today, and by the way, you got the short speech, you didn't get the long one. When we talk about creating decent paying jobs, when I talk about providing health care to every man, woman, and child, do you think that that's a radical idea? It's not a radical idea. Every other major country on earth guarantees health care to all people as a right, guarantees paid in family and medical leave. Many countries, when I talk about making public colleges and universities tuition-free, not a radical idea. Other countries are doing it. Do you really think that we cannot lead the world in combating climate change? Of course we can. So I am passionate because of my 7 grandchildren, because of the children in this country, because I know what we can do as a nation when we put our minds onto it. So I want all of you to think big, not small. Think of what we can do. And that's what the campaign is about. Okay. Where's our mic guy? All right, Mike Lady. Okay, Mike Lady. Yes.
Thank you so much for your integrity. And so you mentioned you really wanted to make public colleges and universities tuition-free. I'm just curious, what would that do for our private colleges?
Okay, it would help in the sense that that's part of the program. The program also is an understanding that not everybody wants to go to a public college and university. We got great private colleges all over America. People have a right to go to private colleges. But I want to make sure that whether people go to private colleges or public colleges, they can go to the school of their choice without leaving school deeply in debt. And that is why we will substantially expand Pell Grants to the middle class, not just to lower income people, and we will make college affordable for all, whether you're going to a private college or a public college, and when you leave school, we're going to substantially lower the interest rates on your student debt. All right? Okay. Gentleman in the yellow shirt there.
I appreciate your time. One of the parts of the Obama administration I feel has failed the most is his search for transparency. I think that a majority of the problems that we have as a country could be solved by transparency. Do you agree, and what can we do to get to that point?
Well, I think your point is well taken, but I don't think certainly it's only the Obama administration. I think that clearly we live in a democracy. All right? You live in a democracy, you have a right to know what your government is doing and the reasons as to why people are making decisions. There are too many documents that are classified that should not be classified. I agree with that. And I will do my best. You know, it's what I did when I was mayor of Burlington. People knew what we were doing, and that's one way. When people know what's going on, when they're involved in the process, you have a much more vibrant democracy. I believe in that. Thanks for the question. Yep. Okay. Yep, you got a...
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. And thank everyone for coming out tonight. I want to say this, everything you say strikes all of us so deeply, and we're all behind you. I'm a chemical engineering graduate from Iowa State. We've got $93,000 in student debt. I'm working daily right now to support 2 kids. My wife is upstairs. I'm starting a nonprofit organization to create sustainable communities. I'm an energy efficiency consultant out in Des Moines, and my passion is sustainability. So what can we do to help small towns create sustainable plans for the future? 20-year plans for the future. I'm so
Good.
It's Grassroots. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I hear you say that you're $93,000 in debt? $93,000. And if you're working on sustainability, my guess is you're not making a whole lot of money. Is that right? Hey, stand up. I want everybody to hear this. What's your name? Miles. Okay. All right, here, let's just stop. And did everybody hear what Miles had to say? This planet and our country face an enormous crisis in terms of climate change. Okay? Miles is helping to become a leader to bring people together to combat climate change. He didn't go to Wall Street to become a billionaire. He is working night and day for his children, his family, and all of us to bring people together to create a cleaner and healthier planet. He is $93,000 in debt and paying over half of his income in student debt. This is insane. For 15 years. I mean, it speaks to the courage and dignity of this young man. But his family should not have to suffer economically because he has chosen to do exactly the right thing to do and to help us address one of the great planetary crises that we face. So I happen to believe, Miles, and I'll tell you what we do in Vermont. And I love going to these meetings. We have, in fact, I brought some money into the state which actually help form what we call town committees. So what you're seeing in towns like Waterbury, Vermont, where the town gets together, very large meetings, and they're putting solar panels up on the school rooftops and on the municipal buildings. You have people knocking on doors distributing more energy efficient light bulbs, helping people weatherize their homes, telling them what's available. I think, in fact, the way we transform our energy system is precisely through what you're doing at the grassroots level, okay? Can we move faster in the production of LED light bulbs and get them out to people? Can we weatherize homes much more effectively than we're doing on a larger scale? Yeah. I introduced legislation for 10 million solar rooftops in America. Cost of solar, as you know, is going down. We can drive it down even further when we work with the solar industry. Here in Iowa, you guys are doing a great job in terms of wind and in terms of biofuels. We can do better in Iowa. We can do better all over America. But our job is to mobilize the American people, and I think they're ready to go forward. I think you've got a whole generation, your generation, ready to lead the way. I will be there for you. There's no issue I know of more important than this one. Thank you for what you're doing. I think you're moving us in exactly the right direction.
So my question is also about the rich and the poor, but slightly in different terms. Right now, Saudi Arabia is basically destroying all of Yemen, and I've had a foreign exchange student with my family for 4 years, and right now his family hasn't had electricity or water for 4 months. They live in the capital city of Sana'a. So I was wondering what you could do. I know you can't fix the issue, but I'm sure since you're running for president that you have a plan to solve something like that, because Saudi Arabia is backed by the United States.
Yep.
So I was wondering what you could do to solve that issue.
Well, thank you very much. Let me back it up and I'll come to your issue. As you reminded me of something that I did not talk about during my remarks. And that is the crisis in the Middle East, and one part of it is what you have referenced. 2 points. You're looking at somebody who, when he's in the House, voted against the war in Iraq and learned the lessons of that disastrous war. And one of the lessons is that the United States cannot and should not try to do it alone. We need a coalition. And that coalition has got to be, if we are going to destroy ISIS, which I believe we must, that coalition has got to consist of the major powers on earth, the United States, the UK, France, Germany, and Russia, and others, and Muslim countries on the ground, okay? I'm going to get to your question, all right? And King Abdullah of Jordan recently said something very profound. He said that at the end of the day, what terrorism is about is the need for Muslim nations to destroy ISIS because ISIS has hijacked their religion, that the war there is a fight for the soul of Islam. Okay. Now, what does that mean? It means that the Muslim countries, including very wealthy and powerful countries like Saudi Arabia, which you may or may not know has the 3rd largest military budget in the world. You know that? 3rd largest military budget. That instead of going to war in Yemen, Saudi Arabia has got to join us in a significant way with other wealthy countries in that region in helping us crush ISIS. All right? Okay, maybe a last question. You got one there? Okay.
You haven't said anything about gun control.
Sure.
What is your...
Absolutely. Well, I haven't said a lot about a lot of things, but I've gone on for about an hour and a half. So this is what I think. I come from a state, a very rural state, which has virtually no gun control. But I think the people in my state, as do the vast majority of the people in this country, understand that we have got to absolutely do our best. This is not easy stuff, and anyone who promises you a magic solution is not telling you the truth. But we have got to do our best. President Obama, you may remember, after a couple of months ago, after one of the many mass killings that we've seen, this one was in Oregon, and he got up there, and he was angry, and he was upset. And I know the president fairly well, and he's kind of emotional on this issue. And what he said, look, this is a difficult problem. It is not going to be easily solved. But just because it is not easily solved does not mean that we do not do the best that we can to try to prevent mass killings. So what does that mean? This is what it means. It means, for a start, that there is a huge consensus in this country, gun owners and non-gun owners, who understand that we have got to expand and improve the instant background check. Okay? What does that mean? It means very simply, this ain't complicated stuff, and that's why 80 or 90% of the people in this country agree with it. If you are a criminal, or if you have serious mental issues that could result in you killing others or yourself, guess what? You should not be about buying guns. That is not very complicated. And this has nothing to do with taking away anybody's guns. A lot of bad propaganda out there, a lot of dishonesty out there. Second of all, if we think that it's right that people who should not own guns not have guns, then you got to deal with the so-called gun show loophole, which is what the president is now trying to do, and I support that effort. And what that simply says is that there are gun shows where small-time guys, not registered gun shop owners, are selling guns. And you can walk in there and purchase a gun either through that process or online without passing an instant background check. So if you believe in an instant background check, it goes without saying you've got to end that loophole that allows people to evade the instant background check. Other issue, all right? Right now you can legally walk into a gun shop, go through an instant background check, and buy some guns. Then you walk out and you sell those guns to criminals. That's called being a straw man. In my view, being a straw man should be a federal crime. So now, if all of that happened tomorrow, there would not be a guarantee that next week there could not be another mass shooting. But at least, and there's just a huge consensus in the American people, gun owners, non-gun owners alike, we've got to do everything we can to make sure that guns do not fall into the hands of people who really should not have them. All right, let me conclude by saying this. Thank you all very much. A great turnout this morning for coming out. I believe that we have a real chance to win here in Iowa. The reason I believe that we have a real chance is I have a feeling there are a lot of Iowans right now who are tired of status quo politics. If we can bring out large numbers of people, if we can have a high voter turnout, I am absolutely confident that we're going to win here. So my request to you is, please come out on February 1st. Bring your aunts and your uncles and your friends and your moms and your dads. Let's win this thing. Thank you all.